His only consolation was that it would end its life doing God's work. Shifting his position, he lifted his arm and wiped the sweat from his forehead with the sleeve of his dark green shirt. Then he turned to scan the empty church parking lot, barely visible through the shrubby undergrowth beneath the trees. He hadn't sought out a house of God as his staging area, but it was fitting. For he was here to follow a directive from the good book, to claim an eye for an eye. And if his quarry didn't show today, he'd find another time to carry out his mission. 10 minutes later, as he was about to scrap his plans and head back to his car, his patience was rewarded. A surge of adrenaline shot through him as his target appeared in the distance. He wiped his damp palms on his slacks, closed his eyes. Jesus, guide my aim as I do your work. Exchanging his cotton gloves for a pair of snug-fitting latex, he lifted the rifle, fitted the stock against his shoulder, pinned the figure in his crosshairs, and waited. There was no need to rush. He could do the job at 150 yards, but why not wait until 100? The closer the target, the better the odds he could finish this in one shot. Either way, in 3 minutes max, the score would be settled. Justice would be done. Timing and patience were everything, whether hunting animals or people. Warmth rose in shimmering waves from the asphalt jogging path, the humidity already stifling at 8 o'clock in the morning. A trickle of sweat headed south between Mark Sanders' shoulder blades, while another tracked down his temple. Without breaking rhythm or slowing his pace, he tilted his head and lifted his arm to wipe the sleeve of his t-shirt across his forehead. The heat was bad, but he'd endured far hotter conditions. A sweltering St. Louis August was no worse than Afghanistan or Iraq or Colombia, and it was far safer. Safety, however, was a relative term, and he never took it for granted. Scrutinizing the terrain as he ran, he remained alert for anything out of the ordinary. That drill, an on-the-job necessity, had become a habit in his personal life as well. But the peaceful suburban park gave him little cause for concern. The place was deserted, the typical Saturday crowd sleeping in, lingering over a second cup of coffee, or hibernating in air conditioning. 45 minutes ago, as he downed a quick glass of juice, Mark had been tempted to follow their lead. Now he was glad he hadn't. Despite the heat, it felt good to run. To be able to run. 3 months ago, when the bullet had ripped through his leg, he hadn't been sure he'd ever use his jogging shoes again. But thanks to a great surgeon and intensive rehab, he was well on the road to a full recovery. And his short-term assignment to the understaffed St. Louis office, which had liberated him from the torture of temporary desk duty, had been a godsend. In another month, he should be physically ready to rejoin his team in Quantico. As for mental readiness, that was another question. Images from the final, fateful moments in the quick shop invaded his consciousness with the ruthless tenacity of an insidious cancer, twisting his gut into a tight, painful knot. As the familiar bleakness settled over him, Mark knew he had to find a way to stop rehashing a past he couldn't change, to stop second-guessing himself, wondering if there was anything he could have done to prevent the tragedy. The testimony of his partner and witnesses had confirmed he'd followed protocol. The security video had backed that up. Despite the media scrutiny and public outcry, the review board had cleared him of wrongdoing. Yet nothing changed the bottom line. He bore full responsibility for the death of an innocent teen. The bullet had come from his gun. As a result, for the first time in his 12 years with the FBI, he felt like one of the bad guys instead of one of the good guys. Until he got past that, Mark knew he couldn't rejoin the hostage rescue team. He respected his colleagues too much to put them at risk. They were among the most highly trained and best-equipped tactical personnel in the world, and they didn't need an operator in their midst whose confidence was anything less than rock solid. The life-and-death situations they dealt with required instant decisions, and Mark wasn't certain he could deliver on that. Not yet, anyway. And neither was the counselor he'd been required to talk with after the shooting. In the interim, he'd figured the job